Hey guys, this is Carmen from Carmen Eagleman Fitness, and I'm jumping on live today to talk to you about how to choose great produce. I don't know about you, but when I go to the grocery store, there's been countless times when I have been choosing a fruit or veggie, especially when I first started cooking, and wondering, how do I choose a good one? Is this a great one? Is this ripe enough? I don't know. So I'm going to start with some general tips on how to choose most veggies and fruits, and then I'll go into some specifics with each of the produce. So, and hopefully you guys can hear me because I have my kids out here with me, and you might hear them in the background. So, the first general tip as a general rule is that you should actually don't be afraid to ask your grocery store, the produce department, where they get their produce from. You want to get if they're buying it locally, because you might be surprised that they might be getting it from very far. And when produce gets picked, as soon as it's off the vine, or as soon as it gets picked, it starts to lose nutrients. And that's why in previous lives that I've done, that I have done has been, I've mentioned that buying frozen might actually be better, because they pick it at the peakness when it's ripe, and then they immediately freeze it, right? So you want to ask your local grocery store if they buy local or not, because you're going to get more nutrients. It's going to be more fresh. So, and that's why farmers markets are also another great way to go, because then you know, again, that it's local, right? So number 2 would be to smell it. It's going to be, most of your fruit, especially your fruits, are going to be fragrant. So if it smells great, then that's a great indicator that it's fresh and that it's ripe, and you're good to go to buy it. Number 3 would be, does it look, is it heavier than it looks? If it is, especially when it comes to your fruit, it's going to be juicier and probably sweeter. So that would be the 3rd. And the 4th would be, like for your veggies, would be, does it have a firm skin? Not super hard, not soft, right? You don't really want mushy, you want firm. So those are general rules that you can follow when buying produce, your fruits and veggies. So to go into fruits, specifically, so pineapple, we're getting into that season, right? When you're buying pineapple, smell it. That's your biggest indicator when it comes to pineapple, and you actually want to smell the bottom, the butt of it, because that's where the sugar starts, and so it's going to be the sweetest as it moves up towards the stem. So that's where it should be the most fragrant. You want it to be firm, and you want it to smell fresh and sweet, right? If it smells vinegary, then it's on its way out. Do not get it. Another indicator of freshness is if you pluck the leaves like closest to the center, it shouldn't give you very much resistance. It should come right out easily. That's another little tip that they say is that it's sweet, right? Watermelon. I've mentioned this one before, and I have never chosen a bad watermelon. And most melons, you want them to have a field patch. It means that they've been allowed to ripen on the ground and had time, right? Other melons that have stems, you want to make sure that they have the stem is like dark brown and it's dry, because it's another sign of maturity. With watermelons, the ugly little lines that are on there are from bees or other insects trying to get to it, which indicates that it's sweet. Another rule that I do is I will pick it up and I will knock on it, and if it sounds hollow, then it's a sweet watermelon. And again, I've used all those. That's how I pick it, and I've never chosen a bad watermelon before. The 3rd fruit would be peaches. You want to make sure, on peaches you sometimes see like those little dark spots. That's actually not that it's going bad. It's called a sugar spot. And that's where the sun has kind of hit it hard and allowed the concentration of sugar, which means it's going to be sweeter, right? Another way to choose them is if they are at the top. If if it has a line across it, it means that it was given enough time to ripen and plump up, and it gets pushed against the branch. So that's a really good one to choose. Strawberries, again, smell, and peaches too. You can, when you walk into a store, you're like, oh my gosh, the peaches smell so good, it makes you want to buy them, right? Perfect to grill on the grill for summertime. Strawberries, again, smell is going to be your biggest indicator. I remember when we lived in Monterey, the farmer's market, I could not go past that without wanting to buy strawberries because they smelled so good. With your berries, when you're buying them in the store, you just want to make sure that they don't have any blemishes, obviously not any mold or anything like that. But when you're looking, if they've got water, like juices already in there, most likely there's one in there that's already starting to spoil, and it might have mold. I know I've gotten them sometimes when I've gotten it, when I haven't picked them correctly, right? I'll be going through and I'll see ones that are moldy. So make sure to kind of, as you're looking, if they have juices in them, I would probably choose a different one. Cantaloupe. Again, it should have a musky, sweet smell to it. It should look heavier than it should be heavier than it looks. And you should be able to press your thumb slightly in to the bottom, and there should be a lip there should not be a lip around the stem. Cherries are ones that should be firm and plump and a dark color red, right? And the stems should look fresh. You don't want them to look wilted or anything like that. Avocados, I've mentioned this one before. I love avocados. You want them to be firm, but kind of slightly soft, right? Those are ones that are going to be ripe. If you aren't going to use them for a little bit, obviously you can buy them firm and they will continue to ripen. But when you go to use it, if you take the stem, the little ball at the top, if you take it off, it should be a golden brown color. If it's not, if it's too green, then it's underripe. If it's too dark or moldy, right, then it's on its way out. So moving on to veggies, here is pumpkin. It's kind of hard to tell with pumpkins. We buy a lot of pumpkins around Thanksgiving because we actually make our own pumpkin puree for pumpkin pies. So there's not a real big definitive way, but again, kind of the same thing with melons. You want to make sure that the skin is firm, that if you pick it up, that it has a hollow sound, and that so when the skin is firm, that you can puncture it and it resists puncture. That usually indicates that it's fresh, as well as the stem. If the stem should be dried out, should be kind of dry and not green at all. Artichokes. These ones, you want to, again, make sure that they feel heavier than they look. You want the leaves to be compact, and when you squeeze it, it should make like a rustle, like a rustling sound, and that indicates that it is, or a squeaky sound, I guess you could say, indicates that it's fresh. So asparagus, when you're picking asparagus, or choosing asparagus, you want them to be, the tops to be compact, or firm, not open, and you want the greens to be, or the stalks to be a dark green, right, or a green. The whites, you shouldn't have, like, it should extend, the color should extend all the way almost to the bottom, the majority of the stalk, which indicates freshness. So beets, this one I remember having a tough time when I first started choosing them. Usually they sell them when you're not buying them already, like broken down, cut, sorry. You want to make sure that if you buy them with the tops on them, that the tops are not wilted, that they are rich in color and smooth on the surface. That indicates that they're fresh. If the leaves are wilted, then it means that they're on their way out. Bell peppers. So your red bell peppers are actually going to be your sweeter ones, more than your green, right? You want them to be firm and heavier than they look. And did you know that if you actually shake them, if you can hear the seeds, that's usually an indicator that they're on their way out. I know that can be a little hard sometimes if you're buying them in bulk and they come in a package, but if you're able to, pick them up. If you're buying them individually, pick them up and shake them to see if they're good or not. Onions. So when you're buying onions, you want to make sure that they're dry, that the skin is very papery. If there's any kind of moisture or spotting, that can mean that it is on its way out. Young ones are actually the best ones to pick, and they should have no smell whatsoever. If they smell, then they're probably bruised somewhere on the inside, which kind of just means, again, that they're on their way out, that you might not have very much time to use them before they completely go. Mushrooms. So fresh mushrooms should have a firm texture. And another great way to see if they're good or not is to look on the inside. Again, if you're not buying them already packaged, but individually, look on the inside, and the gills, the little ridges, should not be open. So if they are, then they're starting to go bad. And you want to find ones that are lighter in color. Green beans. So you want green beans that are, if you pick ones that are individual, like fresh ones, I know my store has like bins of them and I can choose them fresh like that instead of in a package. You want to just make sure that they're firm and crisp. Those make great ones, and brightly colored. Garlic, you want to make sure that the whites are, the paper is really white, right? You don't want shriveled, you don't want any kind of like yellow or spongy. You want them to be, the bulbs to be firm and plump. Cauliflower. So when you're choosing cauliflower, you want a creamy white. You want it to be, the curds to be a compact and not separated. And having leaves actually on the outside is good because it just it indicates that it's more fresh. So don't be afraid if you have green leaves on the side. That's a good thing. And with cauliflower, size has nothing to do with it. So if you need a small one, then that's fine. Size does not determine quality. So Brussels sprouts, you want to look for a fresh, bright green color, tight-fitting outer leaves with on the body and free from blemishes. And then tomatoes. So this is my last one in the veggies. Tomatoes. Tomatoes actually develop more flavor when they're on the vine. So if you can buy them locally and on the vine, better. I know some stores, I know my store, my local store carries tomatoes on the vine, so I buy those because once they're picked off the vine, it doesn't develop any more flavor or anything like that. So that's one of those ones that you actually want to buy in season. Most of your fruits and veggies you do, but those in particular, buy in season and buy on the vine. If not, you're probably better off buying canned. And of course, making sure it's BPA free and all that stuff. But so tomatoes, just remember, if you want great flavor, make sure that it is on the vine. And the stem should actually, like if you smell the stem, more so than just the color, it should actually smell like the garden. So again, smell, right? That's just a list of ones that I remember having trouble with. There's a ton more veggies and fruits, right? So I'm sure there's ones that I've left off. If you have any that you're like, oh, I have a question about, or I'd like to know, drop it in the comments and I will answer that for you. So this is Carmen from Carmen Eagleman Fitness. Thanks for joining in today, guys. Have a great day.